Okay, hey guys, welcome. Welcome. It's the 28th of April. This is an open Q&A for the mastermind members. Half a dozen or so of us on the call. And away we go. So probably a big announcement. I'll start with something that might be on some of your minds preemptively while you're thinking of questions. And then we'll just, guys who are on the call, you can either unmute yourself and ask me, or you can put it in the chat, whichever you prefer. Yesterday, it was interesting that the Chancellor announced a change to the loan scheme, or an additional loan scheme for funding up to £50,000 being 100% funded by, or 100% backed by the government. So details are still to come out, but from this coming Monday, apparently you're going to be able to get £50,000 much more speedily because of that loan scheme, which is, I think, a tremendous opportunity. Because I think most people here knew how I felt about CBILS anyway, which is, if you use the money responsibly, it's a tremendous gift. So for a business owner, I think it's a gift. I think for a taxpayer, from a taxpayer point of view, it's may cause some problems down the line, but we will see. So that was, my phone exploded as soon as that was announced yesterday. I wasn't watching it, but literally I was on a Zoom call with somebody and they kept going, what's that pinging noise? It was just an internal team call. And it was WhatsApp of everybody sharing with me the news about the Chancellor. So I do think it's truly extraordinary times that we live in. But anyway, over to you guys. So Alex, Arthur, Omar, Sonia, questions, thoughts, comments? How can I help you today?
So can I just ask, Dan, it's Alex. So I've applied for a CBIL, so I'm assuming that if I qualified for the criteria under this scheme, that they'll look at it under the new scheme, that they'll just look at it in that light rather than, you know, obviously the old scheme, because I don't particularly know at the moment, but
okay, Alex, I don't know if it's your end or my end, but your audio is dropping in and out, unfortunately, but I think I got the gist. So, Alex, assuming you can hear me, I will try and answer the question. And if you can't hear me, then hopefully you can get the recording. So I think Alex's question was about, she applied for CBILS under the old scheme, will it automatically be kind of ported over to this new proposed scheme? And the answer is, I don't know. It's very unclear, the specifics around this new scheme. In theory, yes, because you are in a queue to go to the underwriters at the bank, and they will assess it accordingly and make an offer accordingly. So you would hope that they will adapt, because the reason the Chancellor has done this is because he wanted the banks to get more money out more quickly. And so I don't know how much you applied for, Alex. You can put it in the chat if your audio is not working, and I'll be able to read it. But if it was £50,000 or less, that's the limit for the 100% guarantee from the government, which in theory makes it easier for the banks to say yes. Yeah, okay, so it was only £25,000. So I would like to think they're going to deal with it in the new. It goes to the same underwriting department, as I understand it. My father worked at HSBC, and he's still got some contacts there. So I leverage some of those contacts to understand the underwriting, and that's how it would appear to me. So I think you will qualify under the new scheme. Therefore, it's more likely to be approved, Alex. With you buying the business and a new SPV, I think that will stand you in good stead. Okay, next comment question. So Arf says, the book arrived yesterday. Great book. Great book. I'd say available at all good retailers, but actually it's only available at one, and that's Amazon. So if you haven't got, please, I would love your support to go on there and buy it. And actually what I'm after is reviews. So if you've read it, review. And actually, as a quick plug, on Thursday, the session that I'm going to deliver at 1 o'clock is I've reworked the presentation for business value maximization. So I've got a new presentation as it relates to the content from that book and the business value maximization model. And you guys are going to be the first to see that this Thursday at 1 p.m. So that'll be a training that I'll be doing in 2 days' time. And of course, tomorrow, at 1 p.m. Kevin Hall is delivering the part 2 of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, starting with the end in mind. Okay, next question is, thanks, Mike, appreciate it. Next question is from Sonia. My question is, what else should I be doing, prioritizing right now? So, thank you, Sonia. So the question, which I'll ask it now, but if you can't type or can't unmute to answer, I will make my best guesses. It depends what you've done, right? So as I know a little bit about what you've done, it's been fed back by the coaches and what you posted in the group. But what else should I be doing depends on where you're at. So the overarching concept, and then I'll let you think of an answer, and I'll try and be more specific to you, Sonia, if I can, is think of the stages from that book: defend, develop, and disrupt. Firstly is defense. Get your defense in order, right? And for most people, that first 4 weeks, etc., was about getting the defense, making sure the cash flow was in place, securing the grants, etc., so locking down, battening down the hatches. But now people are sat there going to go, well, we don't know what's going to come next. Where should I switch to? And for most people, the stages build on top of one another like a pyramid. So defense doesn't go away, but once you've got that in hand, you can switch more of your focus onto develop, as in how do you develop the core business? And once you've got that in shape, you can move forward onto disrupt. And the overarching comments on you, and I'll come to take your points, is I think right now what people need is a vision. You as the owner of the company need a vision for how you can be back better than ever. How this company is either going to pivot if it needs to pivot, or how it's going to be back better than ever before, new and improved, as the world opens back up again. I think that's critical right now. So that's my philosophical comment. Over to you, Sonia. Looking lovely this morning.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Hello. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Hello, Ma. Hey, everyone else. No, that's brilliant. I think what I'm just mindful of in my own head is I feel like I'm constantly doing this dance between the stuff I need to be doing now on all the kind of defend position that you talk about, and thinking about what I need to be doing in the future. You know, in my head, I've remodeled the business. I think we're going to come out of this bigger and brighter, but it's almost just trying to make sure you're not spending too much energy in the wrong place at the wrong time, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm slightly wrestling with.
Yeah. So I think everybody's wrestling with that. And there's also the emotional factors in it as well, of the emotional ups and downs. Sometimes people are very emotionally up and the future's bright, and other times people are feeling a little bit down, which is, I think it's part of the human psyche anyway, is my personal belief. It's not flat. It's like a rhythm. It just becomes more pronounced perhaps when we're in lockdown. So for me, I think it's Einstein that said it, that genius is the ability to hold two opposing thoughts simultaneously. I think that I don't want to use the word balance. In fact, a friend of mine used a different word recently that I quite liked. I think it was harmony. It's like balance implies like an equilibrium that doesn't exist, but harmony is like it's working appropriately. So it ebbs and flows, but it's harmonious. And so I think that there's a harmony to be found between short-term and long-term thinking, and also probably worst case, best case scenario planning. So I was speaking with my father, actually. We were just having a catch up yesterday. And, as I mentioned earlier in the call, my dad worked for HSBC for 40 years. So, he was never an entrepreneur, but he's a smart man. And he often gets his little taste of business via me. And so he was talking about my different businesses and scenarios versus what actually happened. And, I was happy to report that I'm so far overall across the group of companies, so far ahead of what I was prepared for. My worst case scenario was X. So let's just to make up an example, say revenue dropping by across the board by 50%. And actually it was a lot less than that. But I still now, I was talking with a team member the other day, Sonia, and one of the businesses, somebody that's like top of the tree, kind of quasi MD, And because we're doing so better than expected, he surprised me because he immediately turned into, oh, okay, great. Can we talk about my bonuses then? Right. So, and I was like, well, we're doing better than expected, but I'm still a bit paranoid. So it's a very convoluted answer just to say that I think in effect, you have to run both scenarios. Cleaner example, which is probably easier to illustrate for everybody here. John Taylor, who's a private mastermind member with his business partner, Lee, they've got a gym. So the gym's closed, right? And so now they pivoted a bit like Steve and Becky Dennis, who also own a gym, did into online training. But now they're in this scenario where they've got the defense in place, they got the grants, it's worked out well, and they're keeping some of the revenue going by doing this online version. Steve and Becky Dennis too, but it's kind of like, okay, what if we're allowed to open up? Like, what does bigger and better look like? Well, that depends on, are we allowed to go back to the gym because it's a boot camp style gym versus no, you've got to be social distanced, and it just doesn't work. I mean, we don't have any restaurants in the group, but can you imagine if it's like restaurants are allowed to open, but everyone's going to be social distanced? And then you've got to start then going, well, does it make sense to open, right? Can we run it profitably? And the only solution that I've got, Sonia, so it's a really shitty answer, a long shitty answer as well, which is the worst kind, is I've got to have a few kind of scenarios. And I come back to that Corona cash flow of that red, amber, green. It's kind of like, what is worst case scenario so everything's going to be okay? What is best case scenario that I'm working for? And then what is probably going to end up in the middle? And then I'm constantly juggling those data points because it's changing so quick. And the beauty of all of that, of course, is if you can adapt to those changes, you're going to be light years ahead of the rest of the economy. So that was very philosophical and non-specific to you, but I'm happy to be more precise if you've got any more examples within that.
No, I actually quite like having the, I think harmony is a really good word actually. And I really like having those kind of frameworks to just shape my thinking. I think if I went into any specific examples, it probably wouldn't benefit the group particularly. And it's more kind of as it's churning around. So no, that I think that's, yeah, that helps me a lot. Thank you.
Good. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And again, just for everybody, I think defense is appropriate for most people, but most of the mastermind members have got defenses in place. So it still needs to be maintained. And I'm in favor of maintaining it. Not in favor, I pleasantly insist that it get maintained, but you can switch your more attention on to develop. There's a few people that are still vulnerable that still need to play that game. In fact, it wasn't a mastermind member, but this was horrifying. So if any of you on this call, Bev, Robert, etc., have joined us since while I was talking there, if any of you are in this camp, get it sorted. But somebody in the Turnover is Vanity group commented just yesterday, I think it was, saying, oh, I thought the grants were just going to be given out to the people that are eligible, right? I thought it was just going to get put in our bank account. I didn't realize I had to do something. What do I do? Right. So there's somebody, assuming that they qualify, Omar, that's eligible for a £10,000 or £25,000 grant. But they've just sat there oblivious. Right. And for me, they haven't got a good defense, because I don't know this to be true. This is all a mind read. But if they're that non-attentive to that amount of money, chances are they act similarly in other respects of their business. Right. And that makes me a bit nervous. You've got to have good defense and then develop. But then there are some business owners in Mastermind that are in great shape and strong balance sheets that are actually ready to disrupt. They're ready for acquisitions. Or disrupt might mean that your industry, I use the restaurant one as an example, is going to change, may change permanently. Right. So therefore, what are you going to do? Are you going to sell that business? Are you going to get out of that business? Or how are you going to radically change and disrupt? Because if you adapt better than the rest of the competition, Omar, you're going to be light years ahead. Okay. So other questions, comments, thoughts? Welcome if you just joined the call, guys. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask me questions, or feel free to put it in the chat as well. So I'm just reading through the chats. So yeah, we've got that. Thank you, Arthur. Mike read it and reviewed it. Fantastic. Thank you. Am I being wise to be spending money now on systems and procedures? Quite a big investment, but think we will benefit in the short and long run. Great question, Mike. So look, this is a perfect question for where you're at. And annoyingly, the answer is always, it depends. So I'll give you a few things to think about, Mike. I'll give you a few things to think about. Okay. Hold on, my video is frozen. Let me switch back to there. A few things to think about on where to spend money. If you've got your defense in place, right? The utopia, Omar, the holy grail is being profitable and cash flow positive. Because in theory, if in this current lockdown scenario, you can stay profitable and cash flow positive, you can operate indefinitely. Second to that, or simultaneously, is just how much cash reserve do you have on hand? So Mike, obviously Mike, for those that don't know, is in the cleaning business. So I would imagine, Mike, that business is pretty darn strong right now. And if you were still in defense mode, you wouldn't spend any money on the systems and procedures. You just be, it's an the cash is an insurance policy. But assuming, like I'm almost certain you are, Mike, you're in a strong position. You're just having to adapt to everything. Investing in systems and procedures makes total sense if you're looking to develop the existing business and scale, right? Systems is a developing type process. Some would argue systems need to be in place at any moment in time. I disagree with that. Lisa's not on this call, but if Lisa was, she's our resident systems freak. She would say systems are always prevalent, and I disagree. When a business is in defense mode or when it's getting established, there's no point systemizing when you don't, you're still figuring out what works. But once you're established, Mike, and you're getting ready for scale, which I can imagine, you know, in the cleaning industry, your services are in more demand and they're going to stay elevated for the foreseeable future. Getting your systems locked down to allow for that scale is worthwhile, Mike. The only caveat is making sure you've got the cash reserves. Okay, next question from Alex. One question on CBIL. Form asked about using a loan to pay off debts. The £25,000 I applied for was for working capital / debt servicing and not to pay off a loan to leverage a lower rate of interest. How would the lender look at my application if I asked for £50,000 and tried to refinance for an interest-free period? So, Alex, this is just my opinion. It's my opinion based upon two things. One, what I've been able to gather from the banks and what I've inferred. And secondly, having been a lender myself, because people don't know and I don't advertise this a lot, but yeah, I was in the B2B lending industry for a few years and I still am at a modest level. I just don't have a dedicated company to it anymore. So it's fascinating. How do I answer this question? I think it depends where your loan is, right? So I'll argue both sides, and I suspect it's on balance. Because if you ask a lender, even though they would refuse to tell you, even if you were inside there, they would say, well, it depends, right? Because if you're, let's say you've got a loan with NatWest, just to put a name to it, Alex. So let's say you've got a loan with NatWest and you're going for C-bills with NatWest, right? Do NatWest want to give you a C-bills loan at lower interest so you can pay off their higher interest loan? I would say no, they don't. So they want to turn it down. And the really interesting moral question is, if you've got a loan with HSBC and you go for NatWest for C-bills, do NatWest want to give you a C-bills loan if you tell them that you're going to use it to pay off HSBC? Because they're stealing from their competition, right? They get to make the money on the debt, not HSBC. That's quite an interesting one, right? Because they might say, well, that's not what C-bills is for, right? But on the other hand, they go, well, we're stealing from our competition. Because C-bills, let's be honest, from a lender's point of view, is shit. It's a shitty ass deal, right? It's good for the borrower, but it's a shitty ass deal for the lenders, right? And by the way, that's why the chancellors brought in the 100% backing, because the banks didn't want to lend money on C-bills even with it being 80% backed by the government. Why? Because it was a shitty rate of interest and it was only 80% backed. So the bank had to back 20% of the loan. So if it defaults, you don't need too many defaults for the bank to not make any money on CBILS whatsoever, right? So that's why they've not been lending out the money quickly. And that's why the Chancellor had to bring in the new offer. So I believe the banks don't want to lend out CBILS, right? They don't want to lend it. So they're looking for reasons to disqualify you from taking the loan. But CBILS, for the purpose the government intended it, is coronavirus business interruption scheme. So again, a long-winded answer. I don't know, I've too much coffee perhaps. Succinctly, Sonia, my best guess is the banks won't like it if you tell them that you're going to use a CBILS loan to pay off other debt, because that's not the intention of the scheme. So working capital is an appropriate answer. Paying off debt isn't, at the most basic level, right? Even though you having other lenders and other debt that might be guaranteed means that you're more likely to pay the guaranteed loan off than this one. But on balance, I would suggest that it's not a good thing in the eyes of the lender for you to use it to refinance debt. Oh, right. I'll try and be more succinct with this answer. So actually there's a follow-up from Alex, which makes sense to answer now. How would the lender look at my application if I ask for 50K and try to refinance for an interest-free period? Yeah, it's a version of the same thing. CBILS, for everybody on this call, if you're going to use the money responsible, I'm in favor of you getting as much money as possible. But you do need to know how to do the dance with the lender. You need to make a good case for you need that money because you've been interrupted by the coronavirus and you're going to be able to pay it back ultimately. But so if in doubt, Alex, yes, I'd ask for more money. Okay, Rob. Rob says, and again, if you didn't see, Rob was, we congratulated Rob for his best ever month, I think it was, in March, despite being in the property industry. But first question, hiring and sales. We're predicting a section of our industry will open up July and we will need to make sales. So we'll be spending on marketing, of which we're in a position to help them. How best to plan hiring around this time? Self-employed commission only or low pay, PAYE base and high commission? Yeah, tricky, really tricky one to think through. So let's just go with the fundamentals. So this is where I'll try and be succinct with the answer. The fundamental is lots of people will be looking for work. Okay, and they'll be keen. Therefore, it's a hiring market. You're going to have better be able to pick and choose the individuals that you want, and that's advantageous. So I'm in favor of a diligent process. I suspect, as in getting the max number of candidates and screening them down, but and you could say defend the business by having the lowest salary, or commission only, etc. Or don't hire on payroll, have it be contracted, right? And that might be correct because it's defense. But the only caveat on all that is sometimes if you pay a slightly higher base than the average market, you'll get such higher caliber clients, right? Because you've got what the whole unemployed market wants, which is you've got a job, a paying job. And therefore you can immediately raise the caliber of candidate that comes to you. So I'm in favor, first principles, I'm in favor of maximum deal flow, Rob. So I'm in favor of marketing it and making a big song and dance about that you're hiring, because that kind of puts confidence in the business, in the marketplace, that you're actively hiring, that you're looking to hire, that business is good. And I'm in favor of deal flow. Because the more candidates you get, the better you're able to screen. And if in doubt, I'm in favor of a lower base, but the oversupply of people looking for the job will naturally suppress the price, the salary rate anyway. But in the big scheme of things, Rob, it's not going to make it or break it. So I wouldn't overthink this too much. Just pay fair rate for what you think for the job and get a high volume of candidates, because getting that A player trumps massively you know, saving a few £1,000s on base pay, I think. So just really just try and ramp up deal flow. Okay, that's Rob's question. Any more questions? So either put it in the chat, guys, or unmute yourself. So we've spoken to Rob, we've spoken to Sonia. So we've answered Mike's question. So Omar, Bev, Arthur. We've answered Alex's question. You can have more than one question, guys. Away you go. I'll just, while you're putting stuff in, I will just check the Facebook group to see if anybody's put anything in there. Okay. And by the way, we've kind of figured out these short and sweet sessions seem to go down and be consumed better than you. So it's our intent to do more sessions like this that are short and sweet. Okay, that was Sonia's question. No, I'm good. Nothing in the Facebook group. So good. So so guys, get stuck in with more questions, or we will be done 27 minutes in. So Alex, Arthur, Bev, Julie, if you want to, Mike, Omar, Rob, or Sonia, any other questions, thoughts, or comments?
Dan, just yes. A quick. Mine's just really quick, right? I am inundated with work right now, and I listened to your session you did on defence specifically, and I feel that I should be doing all of that stuff, and because I'm not prepared, but then I don't want to turn work away, so I'm like flat out, but I'm still thinking, oh no, but I'm not prepared, so I'm a bit panicky. So every time someone asks me to do a new contract for them, I'm like, yes, I can do it, but should I be saying no, taking a break, and doing all the preparation?
Good question, Bev. So for context, I know obviously, and I know some people know, but just for context for the others listening in, what is your business?
Okay, so I provide finance support to schools, but the higher end, it's all about the strategic management of it. So since COVID's come into play, I've been asked to various types of things, to interpreting what the announcements are from government, what does that mean for schools, to just supporting head teachers and talking to them about how to get school meal vouchers out. It's my role has changed a lot through COVID.
Yes. So according to your question, and by the way, you can feel free to decline to answer these questions.
Yeah.
But what debt does the business have?
None.
Okay, good. Relative, and if you don't want to say a monetary amount, you can say it in terms of months worth of expenses. How much cash do you have? Has the business got no cash? Has it got 1 month's worth, 2 months worth, 3 months worth, 4 months worth?
No, it's got about 6 months worth. Six.
Okay, great. I'd expect nothing less. So at the most basic level for everybody else listening, Bev's got a business that's a service-based business, right? Yeah. She's got a massive demand for her services, yeah, and it's got no debt and it's got cash. Bev, I'm in favor of making money while the sun shines. So I'm in favor of you accepting the work, as in your mind naturally thinks defensively and you've done a good job, but it would appear to me from the outside that you've got a good defense in place. Now you want to be clear about your criteria. You don't want your cash reserves to be dropping, i.e., right? Really, you want your cash balances to be continually going up, because if you're not taking on debt, etc., really that's a proxy for the fact that you're making profit. You're making profit, you turn it into cash flow, and it's accumulating in the bank. I'm in favor of you taking on more work. Now, how you do that, there are nuances, because of course if you take everybody on and then do a really shitty job, and then it creates more problems later. So it's harder to answer. It's harder to answer how to do that, as in subcontract versus employing, etc. But it seems to me that you can make any bets, reasonable bets, and that you're going to come off good. The fact that you've come to this conversation with all right, am I in the right place to take this, means you're not going to go out there and do anything stupid from take everything on and screw it all up. Yeah. I'm strongly in favor, Bev, of you getting surrounded, whether it be subcontracting in or employing, or doing one then the other, and taking on the work that you can, and really grab those clients now. Okay. on the basis that then that'll set up your next 12 months and you're going to be able to open up all kinds of new relationships.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Does that help, Bev?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, next question. Arthur, aside from cutting expenses, what else do you recommend to preserve cash? Good question. So, actually, before I do my core 5, because there are only 5 levers for operating cash flow, and then there are 3 other things that I'll say. Okay, so actually, I will do the core 5 first. So 5 levers for operating cash flow. You can increase sales. Quite difficult for most businesses right now. You can reduce expenses. Massively in favor of that. You can increase accounts payable, i.e. you can pay more bills out later. You can decrease accounts receivable, collect money in that's owed to you. Okay. And number 5 is you can shift stock. But Arthur, obviously you're a service-based business, so you don't have stock. Receivables and payables have a limit. Sales is difficult right now, albeit I know you'll be focused on doing that. Therefore, it's decreasing expenses. So they're the operating cash flow levers. There are 2 other types of cash flow. Right? This is a quick fire masterclass. Operating cash flow. You've got investing cash flow, which is the buying and selling of assets. So if you've got any assets you can sell off, okay, have at it. So for example, going back to our gyms in the mastermind group, a few of those guys have been selling off gym kit or renting out gym kit, which is increasing revenue. If they sold off gym kits, because I don't know if you've noticed, you probably won't have, I'm more anally dialed into this stuff, like used barbells are selling for above retail on the black market right now, right? So on eBay and stuff, they're selling used barbells for less than the cost it would have cost you to buy a new one. But that's because you can't buy a new one because everywhere's out of stock, right? Because everyone's trying to work out from home. So could you sell off assets, unnecessary assets, company vehicles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? The answer is yes, okay? But I know that doesn't really apply to you, Arthur, but that's just for context. You could sell off assets. And then the final category on the business, and then I've got one other surprise one I'm going to throw at you, Arthur, is debt. So financing cash flow. So you've got operating cash flow, 5 levers: sales, expenses, receivables, payables, and stock. You've got investing cash flow, i.e. sell off unnecessary assets that you don't need. So some mastermind members, might try and sell off buildings, but okay, it's a depressed market though. So it's going to be tough and you're going to take a hit in the price, but I've got at least one private client that's desperately trying to sell off a building they don't need anymore. And then finally, you got financing cash flow, which is borrowing debt, which generally you guys know I'm dead against. I don't like it, but C-bills is extraordinary. It's extraordinary, and I'd make an exception to the rule for C-bills. So they're the levers. So there's 5, 6, 7 levers there inside the business, Arthur. The final one is your personal cash flow. Get on it. It never ceases to astonish me the number of business owners that get all on about trying to drive new sales, but they are absolutely embarrassing with how they manage their personal money. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's you, Arthur. I'm saying that there's a lot of people that have a lot of shit to clear up, right? Cancel all of the unnecessary wastage. Stop spending money like crazy. Right? It astonishes me the number of employees that you see on Facebook bitching about only getting 80% of their pay while being furloughed, right? And that they can't make ends meet. I mean, it's laughable. And so get your own financial ship in order so you just don't need to pull any money from the business. I mean, I'm a bit of a freak of nature and I'm overly conservative, but I only I think it was last week, for the first time since COVID hit, took any money from any of the businesses because I was overly conservative. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to draw any money from anywhere, and I'll just didn't bleed my savings. I'm like, you know what? I just won't spend. I'm not saying that to try and be preachy, because of course, if you haven't got any money in your personal account and you need food, you need steak from the business, you should do that. But people are just lackadaisical and sloppy. And so really cut all your expenses. So the same principles that apply to business apply to personal as well. I hope that helps, Arthur. Okay, next on the list. Sonia says, Bev, can I suggest we connect? I think we might be able to help each other in schools. Yep, I encourage that. Bev, Sonia, you're both in the Facebook group, I believe. So, yeah, connect with each other on Facebook and we'll happily make a intro. If you just, one of you drops Kevin or I or Julie an email. Well, actually, Bev, you need to do it because we need to GDPR and all that stuff. So we need your permission to share your contact details with Sonia, or you guys can connect direct. Ah, I should have read a line ahead because Julie just went, Bev and Sonia, I'll make the email intro. There you go. All right. Good. Arthur, I've really reduced the spending and also taken 2 part-time jobs. Good. Girl. Lots of money out there. I will say on a personal level, but also on a business level, there's somebody in who asked not to be shared, even though I'm going to try and change him to change his mind, who in private mastermind, whose business is a mid 7-figure revenue business. Okay. So a pretty big business. And that business was completely put on stop because of the lockdown. They can't trade. If you knew the business, you'd go, yeah, I get it. I get why they can't trade. Can't trade. But didn't want to sit around doing anything. So they pivoted and figured out a product that needed to be, or a service that needed to be provided right now, and just basically pivoted the whole sales team into that business. And in the lockdown period, they've generated already 7 figures worth of revenue in this new business. Now, it's not new in the sense that it's got the same office, the same, staff. They're all working from home on the phone, but you get the idea. But it's an astonishing example of there are plenty of opportunities out there in the short term right now. If you want to know where to look, if you want to hunt for them and find them, there's plenty of opportunities, massive opportunities in the short term. So you're doing good, Arthur. But if you're in a position for thinking about the long term, a lot of people right now, if they can't trade, it's laying the foundations to come back bigger and better than ever. Very good. All right, guys, any final questions before I call it a day? Oh, yeah. Oh, firing in now. You guys just getting warmed up. Alex says, I'm moving my thoughts and plans to how I can safely operate the business when we reopen. Yeah, good. I have a small retail premises, plus we visit private residents. I'm starting to consider if I can phase back the furloughing of my team, as it's likely we won't have the demand initially to justify everyone working. And with social distancing, we won't be able to operate the shop with 2 staff members. Do you think the furlough scheme will extend beyond the end of June? Okay, I don't know. If you ask me for my gut opinion, but this is an opinion, don't place any weight on that. I can't see how the government are going to be able to justify it. I think they're going to end the furloughing scheme, but there's a tricky balance to be found between allowing people to work, but can the government afford to fund the bill? So I do think that your thinking about these plans is right and appropriate, Alex. Gut level reaction, which is always a bad idea. If you're asking me, I reckon the government are going to significantly reduce lockdown at the end of the furlough scheme, if we're not there already. Significantly, so people will be allowed to trade and operate. What exactly that looks like, because I'm sure there'll be restrictions. I don't know. My gut instinct is the vulnerable will be shielded. The vulnerable will be shielded, and certain social distancing measures will be in place. I can't imagine furlough being extended. The government can't afford to write the bill. They can't afford to write the check. But then they've got to be prepared for the fact that a load of people will be immediately be made redundant at that point, the second government ends furloughing. So, Bev, I need to change my accountant. When is the best time to do this? Yesterday. Touching with Ian Morgan, who's in Ian and Sam Morgan are members of Mastermind Bev that joined last December. And they've got an accountancy firm. So touching with those guys if you want get a quote, have a chat. Alex says, I think I will need to change the roles of some of my team if I need to pay them from July. I'm starting to discuss this with them. Bev, I'm having my kickoff meeting with Ian today. Very impressed so far. And Bev, in case you don't know, Alex is a qualified accountant. So even though that's not what she does with her business, she's a qualified accountant. So she's got better references than most. So Alex wanted to switch accountant, and early days. So again, I'm not officially endorsing Ian, but from what I've heard and from my interactions with him and other mastermind clients, it's positive feedback. There you go. Mike Strange. I've got Mike, I think, is working with Ian as well. So I highly recommend Ian. So yeah, there you go. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you've had I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. We intend to be doing more of this. As a reminder, tomorrow at 1 p.m, Kevin will be doing part 2 of the 7 habits of highly effective people, starting with the end in mind, having the vision for where you want to go. And on Thursday, I will be doing the new and improved version of the business value maximization model from this book. There's a new presentation for that. So while it's fundamentally the same and it'll be a recap, there's some new stuff in there that I'm excited to share with you. So I will see you on Thursday at 1 p.m. All right, guys, be well. Bye for now.